What's up, wild side besties and baddies? I'm Bailey.
And I'm Chelsea, and we're here to walk you through the wild sides.
From homicides to hosticides and everything in between.
We're so glad you're here, so buckle up
and enjoy the ride.
So, do you have a record album? You have a record album?
Yeah.
A record player, an album player.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Do y'all ever get albums, right? Mike brings albums over for you guys every once in a while, right? Or you guys like that's kind of a big connection with Zach and Mike and his music.
Yeah, Zach's dad has vinyl records from like the 70s and the 80s that he's saved. So we have like all of the classic stuff. So we have like Rush and we have Led Zeppelin and we have all of these really cool ones. So yeah. Well, but I bought the Dirty Dancing one.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So when I want to clean the house, I'll put on the Dirty Dancing vinyl record, and it's like, and I have the time of my life. And it's like,
I get the favorite. I think that's my least favorite song on the Dirty Dancing album.
Well, it's always the first song that plays, and so I've associated that with like the best is yet to come.
Okay, that's fair. Well, Cade is, he's like an 80-year-old man in a 12-year-old boy body type of thing.
Yeah.
So he was like, we need to go to the album store. And I was like, all right. So we go to the album store because he's super into Weezer right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like super into Weezer, which is cool because I
tell him to listen to the Christmas version of Teenage Dirtbag.
Of Teenage Dirtbag? Are you talking about wildest?
Oh, sorry. But regardless, tell him to listen to wildest's Christmas version of Teenage Dirtbag.
Okay, I will. But yeah, he's super into Weezer. And while we were at the album store, I was talking with the dude and I was like, yeah, he's super into Weezer right now, got the Blue album. And which albums are really expensive, kind of FYI.
Yeah,
I mean, they're way more expensive than when we were growing up with CDs. But the guy was like, yeah, Green Day's coming to Dallas. And I was like, no way. And he was like, yeah, they're going to be playing like the full Dookie album. And I was like, no way. That's so cool. And I guess Smashing Pumpkins is going to be there. And he was like, yeah, it's like $35. I got tickets for like $35. And it was just this really surreal moment of me realizing that I was super into Weezer's Blue album when I was approximately Cade's age. And now like my kid, gosh, what? Almost 30 years later, it's come full circle, and now we're buying an album, like a vinyl, Weezer's Blue album. So I don't know, it's kind of we've kind of had a surreal week of just like getting ready for. I mean, Weezer's not going to be here until September or whatever, but yeah, it's
so
weird.
Jelly. I want to go to a Weezer concert.
I know. I'm really, really, really excited to go to the Weezer concert. It just is unlocking all of my Charlotte, North Carolina memories, childhood memories. So, it's weird. Growing up it's kind of a weird deal, like getting older where you're just like, that was 30 years ago. Oh my!
Yeah, I did a education in one of the classrooms. One of the teachers asked me to come in and do an education about, something either like addiction or healthy relationships or something. I think it was addiction because I was like given some education about marijuana. And I was like, hey, we haven't had natural marijuana in circulation since the 80s. And they're just like, whatever, that's cap. I don't believe you. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Like, you can go Google it. And then I was like, and, the stuff that you guys are smoking nowadays is way more potent than like your grandparents did back in Woodstock. And they just look at me and I looked at them and I was like, I'm not going to lose this fight. Like, I'm not going to speak first. I just looked at them and they were like, well, what's Woodstock? Oh, Chelsea, they didn't know. Like, I would say 70 to 85% of the teenagers that I work with don't know what Woodstock is. And I have like a crisis when I go back to my office after every interaction with these high schoolers because I'm just like, I cannot function. So, but on a side note, you know how much I love 80s cases.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody should love 80s cases because they're amazing.
Yeah. And so this is interview week, you guys.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun, dun.
dun. And so we actually got the opportunity to sit down with two, not one, but two retired FBI criminal profilers.
I know. Dude, it was a wild interview. You guys,
Yeah.
you
Y'all
guys,
aren't going to get any education, like answers about,
no.
details of profiling. They just tell crazy stories.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's real fun. And so I was like, what are we going to do for this case? Well, the case that we're going to cover today, the profilers that we interviewed, Ray Carr and Jim Fitzgerald, or Fitz,
Mm-hmm.
that's where they met on that New York case.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is the case we're covering.
Uh-uh. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And this case has, so I feel the same way about this case that I did with the Christine Elkins case.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of my favorite cases we've ever covered. I mean, obviously the tragedy sucks, the death sucks, but
Sure.
all the other kind of surrounding components was really cool.
Right. Yeah. It was like a multiplayer case. There were, I mean, detectives, there were divers, there were cross
Yeah.
boundary, cross jurisdiction. I mean, there was a lot of cool components going on in this case to figure it out.
And so this case today is going to be kind of the same, and it involves the mafia.
Dude, I am so excited about this. And I feel like the mafia is, I feel like it's kind of one of those rabbit hole situations, for lack of a
Oh,
better term.
oh,
And I
with
think that's,
like 8 entrances and
oh,
16 exits.
well, that's what I mean. Like, I think the reason why I don't think, oh man, like you are either a mafia fan or you are not. And I feel like there's no in between, because if you are a mafia fan, like I'm not a mafia fan, because in order to be a true mafia fan, it would like take over my whole life.
It's like learning the equations in algebra. Like you have to really like learning that stuff to be good at algebra, right?
Right. Like I'm
But
fascinated with the mafia, but to say that I'm a fan would be inaccurate, because I just don't feel like there's enough hours in my day to
to
spend
go down that rabbit
to
hole.
go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I have to say, like, anytime that mafia stuff would come up, documentaries, I'm like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right. This case has completely changed that for me. You guys are hearing it now that there will be so many mafia cases that we cover because this shit is fascinating. I mean, obviously, like the crime itself, but I mean, I shouldn't have to give these disclaimers by now. Hopefully, you guys know us well enough to know that we're not like, oh, yeah, we love when, people do really horrible things. But learning more about it and like getting into these different layers of this rabbit hole, I should literally call this case The Godfather because I think there are like 3 sections in this case where I'm like, you cannot make this shit up. Like, this is a movie.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, again, I am so fascinated with any sort of mob or mafia. And it's just, again, I think it's because it's twisty like a frickin' pretzel, man. Like, you cannot make this stuff up.
Yeah,
It's
and
so wild.
And I found this like Wikipedia rundown of like the different families and like their and you guys are gonna this is a steep learning curve for me because like Chelsea said, the whole like mafia situation, there's specific language and there's a lot. But there was this Wikipedia page that has like all of the families listed and like the current bosses and underbosses and capos and all of this stuff. And if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to find somebody involved with the mafia and try to interview them. I mean, they don't have to tell me like, we don't have to ask them details, right? Like, don't ask, don't tell. But I think just about like,
I'm like, isn't it kind of like Fight Club though? Like the first rule of Fight Club is you don't
no, I don't think
talk
so.
about
I
Fight
think
Club.
like, I think it's kind of like a known thing. I think like law enforcement even know who the ranking system, like who the players are and all the families, right? But they just kind of figure out how to co and
Exist.
coexist. Yeah.
Well, if anybody can snag an interview, that would be you and your magical emailing abilities. So I'm
Yeah.
going to save my eye rolls and my sighs and just be like, all right, if you say you can do it, I believe in you.
Yeah. And the more people doubt me, the more I get this
Oh, yeah.
dig my heels in. I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking prove all you guys wrong. We're
You're
gonna
like,
do
hold my beer. Watch
yeah.
this.
And so this is actually the case of the murder of a DEA agent. So Special Agent Everett Emerson Hatcher.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for this? Because we're
I'm,
about to dive into the rabbit hole.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Around 10:30 p.m. on the night of February 28th, 1989, Robert Stootman, who ran the DEA's New York division, was at home getting ready for bed. His nighttime routine was interrupted by a call from his second in command, Kevin Gallagher. Gallagher's sharp voice rang through the phone saying Everett Hatcher has just been shot to death.
Okay.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about Special Agent Everett Emerson Hatcher. So you have an idea of why because you're going to hear about the visceral reactions that we're going to have and that people in this case had when he died.
Okay.
And everybody was fucking pissed. And it pretty much started a war with the
Oh.
mafia.
Oh. Oh. Where is this located? Do you know?
Staten Island. So it's all New York region.
Okay, so we're talking like when you think of New York,
Oh,
this is
and
what you're
during the
thinking of.
time period. Yeah.
Like every stereotypical when you think of
We're
New
going to hit
York.
like 12 stereotypes as
Okay.
we go through this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Everett Emerson Hatcher was born on October 9th, 1942 in Mount Vernon, New York. Growing up, Everett attended PS 134 in Queens. That's the school. They call them PS schools.
Public school.
PS. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. PS 134 in Queens and DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx. It was clear very early on that Everett was this very smart kid and had a big appetite for ambition and success. So he was like going places.
Yeah.
After graduating high school, Everett attended the Hampton Institute in Virginia, where he earned a bachelor's degree in physical education. And after that, he went on to attend Boston University and got his master's in education, where he graduated in 1974 with high honors.
Okay.
Right. He also had completed some advanced graduate studies at Boston College and John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York.
Okay.
So this dude was like,
I keep hearing about John Jay College.
it's like the best. I mean, a lot of the people we've interviewed, so Dr. K, I think Dr. A, and Dr. T all went to John Jay.
I was going to say, didn't they all go through John Jay? I'm like, I feel like maybe we need to make a road trip. Check out John Jay.
Yeah, I might just go to John Jay. Okay. At some point, Everett ended up joining the Army because being smart and accomplished, I mean, he just needed to do more, I guess.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but I mean, like, he was already amazing as it is. So, like, let's just make this dude even more amazing, right?
Yeah.
He served in the U.S. Army, where he would end up spending 6 years in Germany as an Army deputy provost marshal and physical education teacher at a U.S. military dependent high school.
Okay.
He returned to New York in 1975 to teach in New York City schools because I think his first love was education, but that overlapped with his dedication to serving his city and his country. So he had this beautiful Venn diagram going of like, he's an educator, but he's also this like super patriot.
Dude, I love that so much. And
right.
I don't know, like I especially love it when males have a heart for education. I don't know. I just think I think it's so important. And I love it. I love that they're just like, we're going to give back to this community and these kids.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about this case, but I literally like choked up at three or four different points writing this all up.
Oh, that's weird. You're not.
Yeah.
Gets choked up.
No, this one really got to me. So, okay. So he was an educator, loved his country, wanted to serve. And while he was working as a teacher in the New York City school system, he began working as an investigator for the New York County District Attorney. And it was clear to everybody around that he was a Mustang amongst donkeys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He was hardworking, empathetic, loyal, and literally every article, every newspaper clipping, every single human being described him as the best man they've ever met.
Gryffindor. He would have been in the House of Gryffindor.
He would have, 100%. And so this job working alongside the DA opened him up to the legal arena. So then he decided to pursue a career in law enforcement.
Of course he did. Why
Of
not?
course he did. So in 1977, he was accepted as a special agent with the DEA. And I literally was like, is there anything this man cannot do?
Dude, right?
Special Agent Everett Hatcher became a DEA agent in January of 1977 at the New York Regional Office. Early on into his career, Everett worked in a variety of investigative assignments throughout the New York Field Division and was a firearms instructor and a recruiting officer. His time with the DEA was successful as he received several Special Achievement Awards in 1982, 1983, and 1987.
Holly, some people are just built different. Like he
Yeah.
did this all pretty much before the age of 40. He was getting like early into his 40s, but I'm just like, that's this what a resume by 40,
Yeah.
40 and a change year old.
Yeah. According to an article by Eric Pooley, by 1989, Special Agent Hatcher had been working undercover in the early stages of 2 joint FBI and DEA investigations. One of a Florida to Staten Island cocaine ring, and the other of alleged bribes to the parole board in exchange for early release of prisoners.
Oh, snap.
So, like, this dude, when I tell you this is a movie, I am not being dramatic, okay?
Where are you, Mark Wahlberg? Where are you?
Mark Wahlberg could absolutely play this character. I think if Denzel Washington was a little bit younger, he could play this character.
He could pull it off even still. There is somebody out there. One of our listeners knows these people. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Just get Marky to give us a phone call or an email, please.
And Ludacris.
Oh, man. Oh, we'll digress.
And so in this role, Special Agent Hatcher was investigating mobster Gerard A. Jerry, known as Chili. Special Agent Hatcher was working to build a narcotics trafficking case against Chili, and Chili was a captain in the notorious Bonanno mob family and was involved in large-scale cocaine trafficking. Okay? And so this is, remember we were talking about the rabbit hole and all of these layers?
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research because I really don't know a lot about like mobsters and the mafia. And so what I found out is that there are, quote, 5 mafia families that dominate organized crime activities in New York City
currently, or in the time frame
like
that we're
since
covering?
the 30s.
Oh, okay.
Like since the 30s.
Those roots run deep,
super deep. And I think the OG, the original gangster, no pun intended, I think his name was like Salvatore or something, and it was like 1931, and he was the boss, the mob boss. So literally like the Godfather, you have one boss from one of the families who's kind of the boss over all of the families kind of thing.
Okay.
So there's always one that kind of takes point. And so Chili, again, was what they refer to as a capo. Don't ask me. It's a ranking official in the Bonanno mob family.
Sure.
All right. And so of the 5 families you have, and listen, these, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Just love me through it. So you have the Bonanno family, the Colombo family, Gambino family, the Genovese family, and the Lucchesi family. Okay. So those are the 5 notorious mob families in New York.
Okay.
Chili was a reputed leader and had a reputation as a gangster's gangster, an old school tough guy who never broke omerta, which again, I had to look it up, and it's a Southern Italian code of silence and a code of honor and conduct that basically says you do not open your freaking mouth whenever you're questioned by any outsider or authority. So it's like a code of honor and silence. Like you'll die before you open your mouth, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So naturally, being involved in the mafia, Chili was in and out of prison frequently, and he loved getting drunk and then robbing people.
Mm-hmm.
He loved stealing, he loved booze, he loved espresso, and doing some blow from time to time. So this was Chili.
Okay, so do you ever go to the doctor's office and they ask you what your hobbies are and then they give you like 2 lines to fill in your hobbies?
That's never happened.
Okay, that happens to me all the time. And I hate that question because I'm like, I don't know. Like, what are my hobbies? And I would love to get an intake form where it was like, my hobbies are getting drunk and robbing, but only together. I only like to rob when I'm
Yeah.
drunk. I like to do blow, but only on Tuesdays. Like, this dude, this is next level.
Well, we need to write this down so this can be a question that I can ask somebody when I interview them who's a part of the mafia. I can be like, hey, do you go to a doctor? Like, what do you write down for your hobbies?
What do you write down? You know, because if
Yeah.
you're in the mob, like mob is your hobby, right? No,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know.
And so at some point, Chili wound up in Arthur Kill's penitentiary that was on Staten Island. And it was there where he met Costabile Gus Farace, where he was serving a 7 to 21 year sentence for murder. So Farace was serving a 7 to 21 year sentence for murder. Okay.
Okay.
Farace had a long history in dealing illegal narcotics and a super extensive criminal background. Farace's father and his brother Frank were fringe members of the Colombo crime family.
Okay.
Okay. Part of their illegal gambling ring. So this dude was used to this way of life. He grew up kind of in the presence of the mafia.
Sure.
Literally.
Yeah. It's cradle to the grave, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And so Farace was described as literally, quote, a fucking psychopath by people who injected steroids to build his vein popping bulk. And according to Robert Stootman's book, Dead on Delivery, at some point when Farace and Chili were incarcerated in the same prison together, there was a prison brawl that broke out and Chili almost was killed and Farace stepped in and saved him.
Oh.
So he like beat everybody up. And so this act, this kind of Farace swooping in and rescuing Chili, who is a capo for the Bonanno crime family, it fostered a bond, right?
Okay.
And so
yeah.
Chili took Farace under his wing, despite Farace only being in like his late 20s. So he was pretty young. Chili was probably in his, 50s when this happened.
Okay.
And I guess Chili was like, this dude would be the perfect addition to our sweet little mob family. And so he was like, I'm going to bring him onto our crew, take him under my wing, and he's going to be part of this cocaine trafficking crew.
Yeah. He found a puppy on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Picked him up,
And
pumped him up, said he was going to be a perfect addition to the family.
Literally pumped it up. Farace used his connections, both established and newly formed in prison, to launch a marijuana business that quickly expanded into other narcotics.
I think the thing I admire, and I'm going to say admire, and I mean it, the most about anything that I hear about the mob is their networking capabilities. These people can network in any situation. They know in prison, outside of prison, at the deli, at the market, at the amusement parks. Like, these people know.
And like across country.
Yeah, like they know how to network. How do they have such great interpersonal communication skills?
I don't know. Maybe they need to teach some communication courses.
Seriously, they probably would be banging.
Yeah. And so when Farace was released from prison in June of 1988, holla holla, it was believed that Chili, again, remember he was a capo in the Bonanno mob family, Chili was Farace's supplier, and then Farace then supplied most of Staten Island.
Okay, yes.
Makes sense?
Yeah. So Chili picked up Farace in prison, and they're out at this point.
Yes.
Chili is the producer, Farace is the distributor.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
And the main distributor of cocaine during that time to Staten Island.
Okay.
Yeah. And so during this time, Special Agent Hatcher volunteered to go undercover to try to infiltrate this ring.
Again, Of course he would.
because
Shocking.
he's the coolest dude I've ever heard of in my life.
Because he's a bad man, pajama.
Pajama? It's true. You see a picture of him, mustache,
Oh, you
like
see it.
those connected glasses. You know
Oh,
what I
I can
mean?
see it. Oh,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Special Agent Hatcher's cocaine buys from Farace were meant to be the first step on a DEA road to Chile.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Hatcher went undercover. He
Yep.
started buying cocaine from Farace
Right.
to try to infiltrate the system because they were trying to get to Chile,
Right.
the supplier.
Yep. Yeah. Make a connection with Faraci, and then I'm sure it's like, hey, we got some big accounts that want to come in. We need to speak to your main dude because this is gonna be a big business for
Like
you.
every movie you've ever watched with drug dealing.
Every movie, again, either Leonardo DiCaprio or Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Where are you guys?
Yeah. And it's just like you said, a lot of times undercover investigators do what's called kind of like buying up, and they'll gradually purchase larger and larger amounts of drugs to establish themselves as a customer, gain access to higher ranking members, right?
Sure. Yeah.
On the night of February 28th, 1989, Special Agent Hatcher was planning on meeting up with Faraci on the South Shore to negotiate the price and amount of the next drug buy, which was about $1,000 cocaine buy. Okay. Don't ask me. I don't know any other details.
Okay.
And so Special Agent Hatcher was wearing a wire, a microphone, and a transmitter, and had told fellow agents that he felt it was a low risk interaction and that there was no danger at all. There was no dope. There was no money going down. So it was just talk.
Okay.
So Special Agent Hatcher had already met with Faraci about 3 times and had previously purchased 1/8 of a kilogram from him the month prior.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So he was just like, this is easy peasy.
Yeah.
He said he felt comfortable with the encounter because he had been an Army captain in the Vietnam War, and so he chose to go to the meeting unarmed. An agent offered to go with him to this meeting, but Special Agent Hatcher turned him down, saying literally, quote, a piece of cake.
Okay.
Because
it's all
this
relative.
dude,
Yeah, it's all
because
relative.
this dude, like if there was a commercial, he'd be riding a unicorn with a sword, flying. You know what I mean? Like Herculean outfit.
With gladiator shoes, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. He's like, don't worry about it. I got it.
I got it. Shortly after 9 p.m., 4 drug agents and an agent from the FBI stationed in 3 separate cars observed Special Agent Hatcher in his blue Buick sedan at the Bloomingdale Road site, which was a super desolate area. So they were kind of like on standby. They were watching, obviously, to where Faraci couldn't see them. The officers made up 2 teams of backup undercover officers, and they stayed hidden a short distance away, listening to the radio signals.
Okay.
Shortly after Special Agent Hatcher was in place, agents saw Faraci pull up in a beige van, and someone was with him.
Okay.
Special Agent Hatcher told the other undercover agents through his hidden wire in his shirt that he was going to follow Faraci to a restaurant on Highland Boulevard that was about 2 miles away.
Okay.
So they pulled up to the meet spot, had a short, how you doing? This is where we're about to go.
Yeah.
And he kind of radioed it in. And as the van and Special Agent Hatcher's car drove off toward Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, 5 agents in 3 separate vehicles followed.
Okay.
At some point in the drive to the destination, Faraci's van and Special Agent Hatcher's Buick went through a yellow light, and the tailing agents had to stop at the red light so that they wouldn't be seen.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to blow his cover, which potentially could put him in danger, right?
Sure.
Seconds later, the tailing agents pushed through the intersection, but had lost sight of the van and Special Agent Hatcher's Buick, and his radio transmitter suddenly went dead.
Oh, that's not good.
Not good. An undercover DEA agent that is unaccounted for and in the company of literal mobsters was a big, scary deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is like if anything could go wrong in an undercover operation, this case, it all went wrong.
Yeah. It's just like they just rang your doorbell and delivered you worst case scenario.
Yeah. The other undercover backup agents checked every diner and every restaurant along Highland Boulevard, but nothing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the car and agents went back to Bloomingdale Road to see if Agent Hatcher had circled back there. Nothing.
Yeah, because the mob also owns the sewer systems and probably have like underground roads that they can transport people through.
That reminds me of John Wick. What's Lawrence Fishburne's character
Mm.
runs the underground? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I do, but you really love John Wick, and I am a fan by association of John Wick.
You suck.
I know. Sorry.
So they looked and looked, couldn't find him. 30 minutes into Special Agent Hatcher officially being unaccounted for, everyone's anxiety deepened and they began to fear the worst. This was supposed to be a simple interaction, something he had done many times. About an hour and a half, less than an hour and a half, about an hour and 15 minutes, about an hour and 15 minutes elapsed before Special Agent Hatcher's partner, who was riding alone, found the dark blue Buick Regal parked on Bloomingdale Road. Now, remember, they had already searched there.
I was like,
his car was not there.
Right. They had left Bloomingdale. They were going to Highland or wherever. And so they found it back at Bloomingdale.
Yeah, his partner did.
Okay.
When his partner got out and approached the vehicle, Special Agent Hatcher's foot was on the brake, the engine was running, the headlights were on, the driver's side window was open, and Special Agent Hatcher slumped over the steering wheel dead.
Oh, crap.
Hatcher's partner flagged down a passing car that happened to be an off-duty corrections officer, John Chavone, who had been on his way to work at the nearby Arthur Kill Correctional Facility, which is the same prison that Shelley and
was
Rachi.
in.
And so you'll hear me kind of go back and forth between saying Special Agent Hatcher and Hatcher, just because it's kind of a mouthful.
Right.
But I also want to be super respectful, right? So,
yeah.
And so Hatcher's partner identified himself, told Chavone to call the police. Chavone said he raced to the correctional facility where he called for the police. And there he learned from another guard at the facility, as well as a number of residents in the area, that they reported hearing a series of gunshots at about 10 p.m. Special Agent Hatcher had been shot 4 times, at least once in the head. He had been shot between the eyes, in the left shoulder just above the chest, and once in the left ear.
Okay.
Investigators said the injuries were apparently inflicted by small caliber bullets, and that preliminary and evidence indicated the gunman was standing outside the driver's door at the time of the murder.
Okay.
The other kind of weird thing was that the radio transmitter appeared to be totally undisturbed, so nobody really knows like why
they had
lost connection. But it wasn't like pulled out. It wasn't, like not locked in its little thing,
Right.
And Special Agent Hatcher's machine gun and badge were in the trunk, and his revolver was still in the glove compartment. And so it didn't seem as if he ever felt like there was any danger, because he never made there was no indication that he made movement towards a gun,
any attempt to, like cut something off at the pass type of thing. Like,
exactly. The area around the Buick was cordoned off with bright orange and yellow tape, while emergency service unit officers set up searchlights and began searching the car and surrounding area for clues.
Okay.
In the early morning hours, so several hours after this happened, Director Stootman, along with Special Agent Ann Hayes of the trauma team, found themselves standing at the Hatcher house in Boonton, New Jersey.
Okay.
They had to inform Special Agent Hatcher's wife, Mary Jane, of over 20 years that her husband was dead. When she answered the door, Special Agent Hayes said, "Mrs. Hatcher, I work with your husband." And she asked if something was wrong. Agent Hayes said, "Something terrible has happened."
Yeah.
Mary Jane asks if Everett was hurt, and the agent responds with, "He's been shot." And Mary Jane cut him off, saying, "Just tell me." And Agent Hayes said he didn't make it.
Okay.
Mary Jane closed her eyes, clenched her fists, but did not raise her voice. She was now a grieving widow and a single mother to 9-year-old Zachary and 3-year-old Joshua.
Oh gosh.
When you see these
Oh,
pictures, like I could cry right now. When you see these pictures of this family and this man with his little boys, I just can't.
see.
Ooh. So a few days later, on March 5th, 1989, a funeral was held for the fallen DEA agent at St. Christopher Catholic Church in Parsippany, New Jersey, where his children attended grammar school. Some 3,000 mourners, most of them cops and federal agents, turned out to the ceremony.
Wow.
Mary Jane said at his graveside, quote, "Because you are precious in my eyes, because you are honored, I love you. Do not be afraid."
Wow.
The Hatcher's oldest son, Zach, then 9 years old, saluted his father's flag-draped casket as it was carried past him. According to an article by Larry Salona and Max Yeager, Special Agent Hatcher's murder drew the attention of President H.W. Bush, where he made his way to New York to meet with Mary Jane, the boys, and Special Agent Hatcher's DEA team and colleagues.
Oh, wow.
This was a huge case.
Yeah. Yeah.
In one meeting with the DEA agents after meeting privately with Mary Jane, President Bush said about Special Agent Hatcher's death, "The echoes of those 4 shots were heard in Washington, and I'd say even more important, across the country, where decent men and women share your sense of loss and outrage." So
What year
everybody,
was this? What year was he killed?
89.
89. Okay.
And just to kind of drive this point home, in all of the reports, literally again, Everett Hatcher was like the most stand-up dude. He was a solid family man. He was funny. He was smart. He was motivated. He was like the best friend that anybody
Yeah.
could have.
Yeah.
So naturally, everyone who worked with him, family, friends, bosses, the president of the United freaking States, was completely consumed with grief. And their attention immediately turned to finding Farace.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like city, state, and even arguably like government wide at this point.
Right. I mean, it's like you done messed up, AA Ron. You
Yeah.
done messed up.
You done. And
Uh,
this shit gets twisty.
yeah.
Okay. So now you have an entire division of the DEA, an entire US federal government branch who is fucking pissed.
Oh yeah. It's personal.
Yep. And they're looking for blood, revenge, justice, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the response was swift and it was massive. It was an all out manhunt that started.
Mm-hmm.
The then mayor, Ed Koch, what?
No, no, I'm pretty sure it's Ed Koch. Let's just keep that. Let's keep that on the books.
Koch. He offered a $10,000 in-city money for any tips leading to Farace, while private group Copshot also put up its own $10,000 reward. And on March 19th, Farace landed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, along with the promise of an almost unheard of $250,000 bounty.
This is like freaking Jesse James. This is like I'm waiting for them to like nail up posters, like,
Oh, just wait.
dead or alive.
Just wait. So while Director Stoopman addressed the troops, Kevin Gallagher was setting up an FBI DEA command center at FBI headquarters in Lower Manhattan to try to catch Farace. Every call, every tip was logged. Teams were distributed to walk the area around the crime scene, searching for witnesses, sending teams to friends and family of Farace's, and hitting up mob hangouts. Right? And so, like, a random thought that I had when I was writing this up, I was like, can we just talk about how wild it is that these dudes who work for the FBI and the DEA, like, go home and eat fucking meatloaf with their family, right? Like, they go to work. Like, when I go to work, it's super uneventful. It's like, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
These dudes go to work and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm doing like undercover, or I'm hunting a mafia hitman. And then they go home and have meatloaf and drink milk and watch TV and go to bed.
You know, that's so funny because I was having a completely opposite but similar thought as well, where I was like, I I had an interaction with a teacher friend of mine a couple of weeks ago who I adore, and I said something that I felt could have been misconstrued, and I literally sent her like this page-long text message of like, "I am so sorry if that was misconstrued. I love you. I admire you. I adore you. I hope you're not upset with me." And to have like, I can't handle for one person to maybe be upset with me, and for me to be on like America's top wanted list and people to
Right?
literally have like bounties out for me. How do people do this? How do they go home and eat meatloaf with like, yeah, I have hits on me. Like I am
Yeah, I have a
actively being
bounty.
searched. I have a
Yeah.
bounty.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
good.
so, as I said, this was an all-out manhunt to find Farace. Just literally, Chelsea, the day after Special Agent Hatcher's murder, 18 locations were raided looking for him. And by early April, though, Farace's trail had totally gone cold and nobody could find him.
And how does that happen?
I'm
How
about to tell you.
does that stuff happen? How do you have that many eyes on
I'm
you
telling
and you're
you.
gone? Abracadabra.
I won't.
Like, reach out and grab you.
If there are 10 cars on the road, I will get pulled over for speeding.
Oh,
So they would find me in like a quarter millisecond. Okay. It's true. I can't get away with shit. So Director Stoopman, who was over the New York DEA office, he, by all reports, had taken Special Agent Hatcher's death like really hard. And he had actually been gearing up to retire. But when Agent Hatcher was killed, he was like, nope, not around here, partner.
all
Right.
right. Yeah.
And he was like, I will not retire until we bring Farace to justice. I don't care how long it takes. So he stayed on, right?
What is it? What is it from Tombstone? Kurt Russell's like, tell him that I'm coming and hell's coming with me.
Yeah, that's literally this, right? And so one of the things kind of early on that director Stoopman was trying to figure out, he had a couple of questions, right? The They were trying to figure out first, how did Farace make Special Agent Hatcher? That was a big question. The going theory, like how did he make him? You get what I'm saying? Like how did he know he was he was a cop, he was a Fed,
Okay. Uh-huh.
right? The going theory is that Farace and a dude named, and this is kind of confusing, and I tried to make it really streamlined.
Okay.
But Farace and a dude named Mark Granata took over a cocaine distribution ring from Farace's cousin, Gregory Scarpa.
Okay.
The cousin ran a Colombo family crime crew, so one of the other mob families,
Okay.
until the year before Agent Hatcher was killed, along with 7 of the associates. And so during Scarpa and this is so good. I'm sorry. This is really confusing. During the trial, when they busted this ring, okay, Scarpa, right, who was Farace's cousin,
Uh-huh.
and then Kevin Granata, which was Mark's cousin.
And who's Mark again?
Mark was the original accomplice of Farace.
Okay. Okay. So
So
Farace and Mark were like
partners.
partners. Okay.
And Farace had a cousin Gregory,
Okay.
and Mark had a cousin Kevin,
Okay. Yeah.
because it's
I
all in
got
the
it.
family.
Yeah, I got
Right.
it.
So Kevin ended up having a trial the year before this happened. So this was 87 or 88.
Okay.
And Special Agent Hatcher was in and out of the courthouse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the theory, according to Eric Pulley's article, is that Farace showcased Special Agent Hatcher to Mark Granata, who made him as an agent in his cousin's trial because he was there as like to sit in support of his cousin during this trial.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So pretty much like he's not supposed to be at that grocery store because that's where
special agents go.
That's
Yeah.
where special agents go. But he ended up going there because his cousin was there, and just by happenstance, he was like, "Oh crap, I know that
Yeah.
dude."
Like, but that dude,
But that
he
dude's
was a
not a
fed.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that dude's not a special agent. Like, that's one of my dudes. Like, why is he shopping at the
Right.
special agent grocery store? Okay, one of
Yeah.
those types
So
of things.
yeah. So something like that. And I don't want to get too bogged down in the details, but
Okay,
that was one of the theories of how they considered that Farace had made Special Agent Hatcher.
right.
Right. Now, there were other theories, and nobody really knows for sure, but we do kind of get an answer towards the end. You know, could it be truthful? We're not really sure. But a good starting point for director Stootman is he was like, question number one, is Farace crazy enough to knowingly kill a Fed? And
Well, I was going to say, if his reputation precedes him and he was known as being an, what did you say, quote unquote, effing psychopath?
yeah,
I mean, there is a possibility that he was
yeah.
just like, yeah.
And the general consensus is that, yep, he was that crazy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like you said, they literally called him a fucking psychopath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Question two, would he tell the organization that he was going to do it? So was he going to tell the Bonanno family that he was going to take this Fed out?
Sure, probably.
Okay.
Because they're not
So
going to talk.
who's not going to talk?
The Bonanno family. Like if they knew, like if he told them that that he was going to take a Fed out, they weren't going to talk. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. But so speaking of this like super intricate dynamic of the mafia, and I think I have it somewhere later on, one of the big kind of rules within the mafia is you do not kill clean cops. You don't kill,
Mm.
you don't mess. So the thing with the mafia is it's about protecting the family.
Right.
Don't get in our business. We won't get in yours.
Okay.
They don't hurt civilians. They protect civilians. They protect the community. They're kind
Mhm.
of, I mean, they're kind of like
They're
a Robin Hood.
I was like, it's kind of almost like vigilante in a way, or a
Yeah.
Robin Hood situation. Like, and it's all on a, if it is on an honor code, okay, that makes sense.
So like you do not mess with the feds, with the police if they haven't done anything to you.
Okay.
Like
All right.
that's a code within the mafia, right?
Okay. Fair enough.
And so with that question, would he tell the Bonanno family, the organization that he was going to do it? I mean, we don't know. Probably not. So this
Yeah.
creates a whole new web. If the Bonanno family gave the green light for the hit, then this was a crazy new level dynamic to the drug war. Like it just went from 0 to 100 really quick.
Because they're going against their own code.
Yeah, and yeah, from my understanding, right?
Okay.
If they had not authorized the hit,
And he
that
was
means
rogue.
that means he was rogue. They would not give him protection, and as a matter of fact, they would probably want him dead.
I was going to say, then it would be to quote John Wick, what is it when he's like, when he pulls the protection off of John Wick, he's like excommunicado.
Yes, excommunicado would be Farace for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So what the feds decided to do, and when I say feds, I mean like not just the FBI, but the DEA.
Mm-hmm.
They started to bring the heat. So Director Stootman was all 500 agents were now ordered to focus on the search to find Farace and turn the heat up on the mob. And they're like, we're going to sweat them out.
Okay.
They tightened the screws on the city's crime families, all of the crime families, not just the Bonanno family.
That's, yeah.
So they
That's
effectively, the feds effectively, by doing this, it was grinding their operations to a halt.
This is like a crap storm.
Just wait. We're just diving in. We're in the shallow end of the pool.
This is going to be an absolute
shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they were putting this pressure, essentially grinding their operations to a halt to pressure them in handing over Farace. The DEA and FBI raided mobster numbers joints, social clubs, pizza parlors, literally everything on Staten Island. The search spread to mob locations in 15 states.
What?
I'm telling you, they were just like, no, around here, partner. We're not doing it.
This is like a 7 alarm fire. Like,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is widespread.
Yeah. But they still couldn't find him. Okay. Then the investigators finally caught a break in May when Farace's cousin Dominic admitted he was the second person in the van on the night of the murder.
Oh.
Dominic led the cops to the murder weapon, which was a .357 Magnum that was recovered from nearby Fresh Kills Creek, and revealed that Farace actually thought that Special Agent Hatcher was a legit drug dealer, but he was one that had gone stooly. So Dominic, Farace's cousin, told investigators that he didn't think that he was a Fed. He thought he was an informant.
Oh, crap.
Like a stoolie. And listen, I had to research that too, because I was like, I don't know what a stoolie is, but I think it's like a snitch or an informant.
I was going to say it's a knock.
Yeah. But Dominic was like, I don't know where he is. And so he wasn't able to lead investigators to Farace either. Okay. Now, this is literally, I have been anticipating recording this episode all day. Like, I have been so excited to do this. This is where shit gets so wild. It is out of a fucking Godfather movie. Okay? Like, I can't tell you how much this just blows my cranium open.
Mm-hmm.
So after months of pressure from the feds and the NYPD on the mob, the DEA's New York Division Director, again, Robert Stoopman, decided the DEA needed help to bring in Farace. So at some point in the months following Special Agent Hatcher's murder, Director Stoopman went to the house of the Gambino crime family boss, John Gotti, knocked on his fucking door, and asked for his help.
Okay.
Like Gotti, Dapper Dan Gotti, John Gotti, right?
Yeah.
The dude. And so Stoopman was just like, you need to do the right thing and deliver the killer. According,
what is that saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. According to Larry Salona and Max Yeager's article in the New York Post, Stoopman asked Gotti, John, do you know who I am? And Gotti was like, yeah. And Stoopman was like, we're putting a lot of pressure on your people. If you do the right thing, the pressure will fall back. Do you understand? And Gotti said, yeah, I understand. They had put so much heat on the mob that Stoopman had literally, where he had said, literally wherever there was a mobster, there was a cop in uniform in plain sight.
Mm-mm.
And the mob did not like it.
No.
They were pissed that they were being raided and getting so much attention because this dumbass,
Right.
this low-ranking dumbass who went loose cannon killed a DEA agent.
Right. Right.
So everybody's pissed at Farace.
Right. Well, and that's kind of why I was like, this thing is going to be an absolute crap storm. Like, everybody's going to be pissed.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, Farace was hiding with friends and criminal associates around the greater New York area, evading capture by both the FBI, DEA, and even the local police. He stayed with family, friends, and other mob associates trying to stay off the radar. So initially, right after the murder, Farace first stayed with Margaret Babe Scarpa. Can I just tell you how much I love that?
Her nickname was Babe.
Babe, yeah. So she's an old girlfriend, and she's Chili's daughter.
Oh.
And she was like totally in love with Farace. So everybody knew that Babe was totally in love with Farace. So she was like, yes, you can come hide out here, even though you're on the top 10 America's Most Wanted list. And on May 24th, after obtaining information from some informants, agents raided the Chili home, and in front of the Bonanno capo, handcuffed Babe and led her from the house.
Oh, snap.
As Babe was being led away, Agent Stoopman whispered in Chili's ear, you can thank the guy who fucks your daughter for this.
Oh. Oh, them fighting words, Rob. Come again? Say it in my other ear.
So remember this dude Chili was a
Yeah,
capo in the Bonanno family. His
yeah,
daughter, who was harboring Farace, she just
right,
got
babe.
arrested.
Yeah,
Yep.
babes in cuffs.
And so Chili, like everybody else in the story, is fucking pissed. It was already believed that Farace had acted outside of the blessings of the Bonanno family on the hit. So at this
Mm-hmm.
point, Chili wanted Farace dead.
Mm-hmm.
D-E-D, dead.
Dead.
Robin Hood's entire.
Arundoft.
That's right. So now he's got enemies in one crime family. Farace would go on to seek the help of a man named John Petrocelli, who was a mob associate with the Lucchesi family. Okay. Like he did with Chili in prison, Farace had essentially saved Petrocelli's life while in prison. So Petrocelli felt like he owed him a favor. So he helped Farace find places to hide.
I mean, Farace might have been dumb in one aspect, but the dude was pretty smart in others. Like if he had that many connections and like deep connections, like I saved your life
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah. So this is a dude who killed a DEA agent, probably without the blessing of the Bonanno mafia, like mob family.
Right.
He's now taking favors from homeboy who's in
Lucchino,
the Lucchesi
the
family,
Lucchesi family. Mm-hmm.
right? And in helping to hide Farace, Petrocelli moved him to several locations. And now he knew if he got caught, he could end up doing serious time for harboring
Mm-hmm.
literally a top America's Most Wanted fugitive.
Right.
But what maybe he didn't realize was the danger he was up against within the mob world, with all the pressure being supplied by law enforcement to get the mob to cough up Farace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So our boy Chili is pissed because his daughter was arrested for aiding Farace,
Mm-hmm.
and it brought heat to the Bonanno family, and he was the one who took Farace under his wing. And so the
Right.
Bonanno family's pissed at him too,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
right? This is a trickle effect.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Yeah. And so Chili ended up calling a meeting with Petrocelli and a Lucchesi capo by the name of Mike Salerno to
Okay.
discuss the situation. So you've got two of the five
Of the five family.
crime families in New York having this meeting because one dude took out a federal agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this meeting, Chili demanded that Petrocelli kill Farace,
Mm-hmm.
but Petrocelli refused.
Okay.
A month or two later, Lucchesi capo Mike Salerno had two hitmen murder John Petrocelli at the Westchester County apartment of his girlfriend, the daughter of a retired police officer. So the Lucchesi family did a hit on their own dude because he was aiding and abetting Farace, and all of the mafia is pissed at him because it's bringing all the heat onto the mafia from the feds.
Well, I was going to say, at this point, it was like the lesser of two evils. It's like, even having to get rid of your own family member, I'm sure to them was like, again, it's the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Petrocelli was found with a hood over his head with a Sicilian message that essentially means never keep secrets from the family.
Oh.
Chelsea, you can't make this shit up. You can't even if I were to write a movie script and send this to MGM, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. This is too wild. You can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the Lucchesi family is like, bro, we don't want any part of this DEA manhunt. Get rid of the dude who's harboring Farace because that's literally the reason we're being raided by the feds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was literally a war going on in New York because of one rogue mob dude who killed Special Agent Hatcher.
What is it? There's one of Inslee's teacher has a saying that says you can pick your actions, but you cannot pick your
Or
consequences.
consequences.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel like this is a prime example. You can choose your actions, but you cannot choose your consequences.
Uh-huh. And so, less than 10 months after Special Agent Hatcher's murder, the manhunt for Farace would finally come to an end, and it looks like the mafia beat the feds to the punch.
Oh, man.
Around 11 p.m. on November 17th, 1989, police dispatchers received a 911 emergency call about a car parked at 1814 81st Street in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn.
Okay.
The car contained one male occupant with another male lying face down on the sidewalk, both of whom had just been shot.
Okay.
Police rushed to the scene and found the two men, one dead, the other one seriously wounded. The dead man was identified as Gus Farace.
Mm-hmm.
He had gunshot wounds to the head, neck, back, and leg. According to witnesses, a van had driven alongside Farace's car and shot the two men 9 times, which, in an ironic twist, it's believed that that was the same method Farace had used to kill Special Agent Hatcher.
Oh.
So it was a message.
Mm.
The survivor in the car was identified as Joseph Sclafani, a member of Farace's organization. So even though the feds were glad the manhunt was over and they had Farace technically, they were disappointed that he had been killed. But Director Stootman, however, would go on to say that publicly, like in his professional office position, he decried Farace's murder, but privately he was like, fuck yeah, that's what you get, bitch.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like he would go and give like press conferences and be like, yeah, I'm really sorry he was killed. I'd much rather him see justice instead of trial. And he was like, that was all scripted. I'm glad he was killed. I don't think he deserved a trial.
You know what else is so interesting to me about mafia or mob is all of to me, it's like classical literature where they're like, and do you see this section, this paragraph? It doesn't mean that. The deeper meaning is like, the web that's wet, like that we weave between lovers and the, whatever of the human condition. And you're like, I thought they were just having a picnic. But everything that they do is always like, and it was to send a message.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
I'm not following.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know. But when it was like, we're going to copy the way that you murdered this DEA. We're going to copy it for you to send a message. Like it's always, there's some sort of deeper meaning message. Like it's not just, it seems to me in the little bit that I've heard about, it's not like senseless crime. Like it's all thought out.
Yeah.
And it's also like bigger picture stuff. Like we know that people are watching. We want them to see it. And we want you to understand what we're trying to tell you without saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And just kind of like as a side note here, when we interview Ray and Fitz, they were working for the FBI and they both were working on this case. And that's how they met.
That's how they met. Oh.
I think that's what they said, but they were both involved in this case. And this was the first time, remember when we were talking to Fitz, this was the first time he used a phone in a car.
A phone in a car. Yeah, yeah.
Was at the scene of this crime.
Yeah, that's right.
So after the massive 9-month manhunt and Farace's death, the task now began to try to identify who was responsible for Farace's murder, right? Experts speculated the hit was carried out to ease the pressure applied by law enforcement, which had disrupted the criminal dealings in New York and New Jersey. It would soon come to light that the men who carried out a hit on Farace were two Lucchesi associates. Lucchesi family soldier James Jimmy Frogs Gallione and associate Mario Gallo.
Okay.
They were swiftly arrested and taken into custody. Prosecutors said the men worked at the time for the Bonanno family, which had put a hit on Farace over Special Agent Hatcher's killing. So they were now part of the Lucchesi family, but at the time they were part of the Bonanno family.
And so,
When they were arrested. Like when the hit happened, when you get what I'm saying? That was from my understanding. I didn't find a lot of information about that, but that's from my understanding. And so how do I say this? To make it super clear, the DEA and the FBI didn't put a hit on Farace, right? The collective mafia families were pissed again because of the chaos that Special Agent Hatcher's murder evoked.
Right. Well, and I'm sure it was bringing unwarranted attention, if you will.
Yeah. And it's unclear whether John Gotti pulled any strings to get Farace knocked off, but either way, the mafia must have wanted Farace dead as much as Stoutman did. According to a journalist and mob historian Selwyn Robb, he said, quote, "There's an unwritten rule. You're not supposed to kill law enforcement agents unless they're dishonest. They didn't want the feds or anybody in their environment."
Right.
On an interesting side note, after Farace's murder, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New York refused to grant Farace a public funeral mass because of his shenanigans, but they did allow his remains to be buried in a church-owned cemetery, but they would not allow a public mass for him.
Dang, Farace even got the Catholic Church mad at you.
They cover up pedophiles, but they're sure as shit not going to give you a public. No, I'm sorry. That's a blanket statement. I'm sorry. I formally apologize to the entire concept of Catholicism.
I mean, I'm just saying he
Tim Lennon.
He picked
he pissed off everybody
of people like that. I have to say that is almost impressive how many people were ticked off and over like one action. Like, holy cow.
Yeah. There are so many complexities to this whole process, right? And so the thing is, believe it or not, Farace's murder went unsolved for nearly 8 years. So it wasn't until 1997 that James Gallione and Mario Gallo admitted in court to murdering Farace, and they pled guilty to murder.
I mean, I can't imagine that was on the top of anybody's list.
Yeah.
To figure out who killed Farace. I mean, I'm sure that they were like, yeah, we're getting to it. You know, it's kind of like cleaning your baseboards, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to do it. It's something that needs to happen, but like, I mean, there's a lot of other things that you care more about than cleaning your baseboards.
Yeah. And they actually found out that there was a third member of the team that killed Farace, and that was Louis Tuzio, but he was murdered in 1990.
Oh, all right.
So everybody's just getting murdered, right? According to an article by Joseph Freed, the two men, Gallione and Gallo, did not give the name of the group, but a prosecutor, James Walden, an assistant United States attorney, said the two men were associated in 1989, not with the Lucchesi group, but with the Bonanno family, which he said put a contract on Farace.
Okay.
And so the Bonanno family was the original family that Farace was working for. And so everyone, again, there's a lot of hearsay, but basically at the end of the day, everybody thinks that Farace went out on his own. The Bonanno family got pissed and killed him. Right?
Right. I guess I didn't realize that there was fluidity between membership, quote unquote, membership into families. Like I kind of that like,
so that was
in the Bonanno family, you were in the Bonanno family. So it's weird to me to hear that there was like, well, they were with the Bonanno family at this time, but then they were with the Lucchesi family later on. Like
I thought the same thing,
that.
But I think that it's almost like arranged marriages.
I was, oh gosh, that's so funny. I was literally wondering in my head, I was like, I wonder if it's kind of like, but if you marry into that, it can maybe be like.
And I think that they will, because the families, like from my understanding, listen, y'all, I am not a mafia expert.
Not
Okay, I
yet.
did a deep dive for this case and I would love to learn more. But from my very baby understanding, the five families, like the goal is to get along, right? The goal
Sure.
is to make as much money as you can
Sure.
and everybody stay off of my grass,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And so there are like different ranking family members, sisters, daughters that marry into other families to
Sure.
form. It's literally like what they did in Europe for
Yeah.
thousands of years of marrying, this
Sure.
princess to this king to avoid a war. And
Yeah. For
and so I think it's
alliances and things like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So I think it's the kind of the same thing with like members of the
Yeah.
families,
That
right?
makes sense. And maybe this is why, maybe in a weird way, this is why, even though I'm like, I like it from afar, like learning about this stuff, I'm like, I think I don't want to believe that this stuff is legit and really does happen. You know what I mean? Because I like my sweet little bubble of a life, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me that this
Yeah.
actually happens, that this actually in our like modern society that people can be recycling their canned goods and also part of a active mob. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense in my brain.
Yeah, and prosecutor Walden also said that the mobsters likely killed Farace not to end the pressure that the authorities had placed on them, but because the Bonanno leaders feared that if Farace was caught, he would turn and become a witness against the mob Confederates.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. I was going to say there was just too much to lose.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, Galleon was sentenced to 22 years in prison. He was released in December of 2015. Gallo was sentenced to 15 years in prison and was released in November of 2009. And so, what an end to an 8-year saga, right?
Mhm.
And to kind of close this out, I want to end on obviously focus on Special Agent Hatcher. Although the case closed and the public, moved on over the decades, Special Agent Hatcher's murder still reverberates with those close to him. Special Agent Hatcher's son, Zach, who is 9 at the time, is now a father of 2 and an agent at the Department of Defense. And his son, Josh, who was 3 at the time, now works for Goldman Sachs Financial Crimes Compliance Department.
Wow.
So they got his amazing genes.
Well, and
Both,
that I was going to say, and that kind of is a testament to um, Special Agent Hatcher's character if his sons wanted to kind of emulate his
yeah.
life. You know what I
And
mean?
they
Like,
say that they're just like, I literally wanted to emulate him. Like he was the best.
yeah.
Both men, though, credit their supermom, Mary Jane, for raising them alone in their father's absence.
Hmm.
Everybody talks about, so Zach went on to say, everybody talks about my father, but my mother was just so strong. Her strength was and is remarkable. She became both mother and father. She became another incredible role model. She was a rock and she kept it all together.
Yeah. Well, and what I mean, I feel like it takes just like an equally selfless wife to see the bigger picture of what your husband is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be like, I get it. Life is hard. You work long hours, but you're
Yeah.
doing this for the betterment. And I can stand behind that and I can support that. And I can put my selfish, like, oh, I wish you were home more. I wish that your job wasn't so dangerous. Like
Yep.
I always really applaud the family members who can be like, yep,
Yep.
I support my husband and I know that it's not ideal and it's scary and it's all the things, but I love his passion and I love, the mission that he's on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in 1996, then Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who was the U.S. Attorney for Manhattan during much of Hatcher's career, and they worked like he knew him and was friends with him, he renamed the portion of West 17th Street fronting the New York DEA offices Special Agent Everett E. Hatcher Place.
Oh,
He said, I'm very pleased to be here today and honor the memory of Special Agent Everett E. Hatcher. Special Agent Hatcher typified the courage and the dedication of those who serve in the Drug Enforcement Administration. Their work is extremely dangerous, often dealing with the most violent criminals in society, but they do it with bravery, dedication, competence, and effectiveness. Special Agent Everett Emerson Hatcher's life and death embodied the courage and sacrifice inherent in law enforcement. His memory serves as an inspiration to all who dedicate themselves to upholding the law, even in the face of danger.
That is incredible. I'm telling you, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We need children's books. We need children's book series where the superheroes are people
Why
like,
don't you do that?
I might. You never know. I'm taking the summer off from school.
You have this thing of having everybody else do stuff. Why don't you just, you're like, everybody keep a journal, not me. Everybody else make a kid's book about superheroes, but I'm not going to do it. Why don't you just do it?
Well, well, maybe I will.
Well, maybe I will.
Maybe I will, Bailey.
Wasn't this the craziest case?
That's insane, man. And I can't. Again, it's like, what do you say? What do you say to this stuff? Like, okay, cool story, bird turn. You know what I mean? Because it's like you cannot comprehend that life. Like, it literally feels like you were telling me some fictional series that you've been reading, you know? Yeah. And you're just like, man, that's crazy. Whoa.
Oh, man. So I think that like non-serial killer cases are really underrated.
They are.
You know what I mean?
They are. Yeah.
And I'd love to hear you guys' feedback about like, what do y'all think about a whole kind of mafia case?
Dude, for reals. And it really is like, why is everybody so obsessed with serial killers? Why are we not more obsessed with stuff like this?
I don't know. But I think to be honest with you, I've never heard a really interesting true crime case when it comes to them, like the mafia. It's always like this dude put a hit on this dude, and I don't know. Yeah,
maybe it's more of a historic presentation, if you will.
Yeah. So I don't know, but you guys make sure to check out our Instagram, because I'm gonna post pictures of Special Agent Hatcher, who I just think is one of the most amazing human beings, and his cutie little babies, his little boys. And he looks like a Miami Vice stud.
That is awesome. I don't know, man. Maybe it could be like Mafia Mondays. Maybe we could have a series, and the first Monday of the month. That sounded weird. You know what I mean.
And if anybody who is listening to this knows anybody who is or was a part of any of the 5 families of the mafia, I would like to interview them.
Well, yeah, New York, you guys love us. You guys are one of our top listening states is New York.
And listen, I'm not going to ask questions that could put me in the river with cement on my shoes. No. I'm not going to ask. I don't want to know. I don't want to know that shit.
No.
I just want to know what the life is like.
Sure. Yeah. Just tell us the stories that y'all tell when y'all get together for Thanksgiving.
And smoke cigars. Yes.
Tell us those stories.
Exactly. And change names.
Sure.
You can come on our podcast anonymously if you want to.
Sure. We just, let's have story time.
Mafia story time.
Mafia story time. We're going to have to find a different intro, different music for that one.
Yeah. So sorry if did this feel like super long?
No, it might have been, but I was like on the edge of my seat, so it didn't feel long for me.
Well, you guys, thank you for hanging out with the Wild Side family. She'll see it like that.
Well, I'm always trying to like figure out a way to be like, yeah, like try to like back that up. And I can't ever, I'm just like, okay, bad, like, yeah. Good job, everybody.
Well, as usual, we love y'all. Get prepared to have some more organized crime stories. And thanks for hanging out with us through this wild and crazy ride.
Yeah, guys, seriously, you're going to love the interview. So tune in on Friday, and we'll catch you on
the flip side. Bye, guys.
Later, Gators. Hey, Wildside Tribe, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
at Wildside Podcast. Make sure to tune in on Wildside Wednesdays. New episodes will drop each Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would love to hear from you, so if you have a wild case recommendation, email us at wildsidepodcast@gmail.com. That's wildside with a C. Or share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you haven't heard it today, you're loved, you're worthy, and you're valuable. And we'll catch you on the flip side.